Welcome to the Board Game BBQ Podcast. This is episode 302, brought to you by Advent Games and our amazing legendary Patreons. We are in currently some sort of weird Avengers Endgame time loop, and we are trying to get back to the present. But we are pre-recording this episode as we have currently spent the entire weekend at PlayCon doing lots of crazy shenanigans, of which you will find out about on a future episode coming very soon. Tonight, I am joined by another crazy Queenslander. How are we going, Dana?
Oh, good, thank you. It is very strange thinking about PlayCon because I'm excited, but yet I'm not sure if I can talk about it because there we go. I'm in a weird funk.
That's all good. And I'm joined by Jules. Jules, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Adrian. I have used the time stone. I have seen 1,479,000 futures, and only one of them, bodily fluids, are not mentioned on this episode.
Amazing. Well, that's going to be this one. Well, probably not. But anyway, I actually had a dream about PlayCon. Can I tell you about it?
Oh, okay.
And the funny thing is MJ also had a dream about PlayCon on the same night, because we have a Discord meeting with the volunteers and we were going through a bunch of processes and procedures, and obviously that was quite heavily on our minds before we went to bed. And then I cannot remember MJ's dream for the life of me, but I remember mine, and I remember we all got there, and for some weird reason there was only one game available for the hundreds of people that were there. And we were like, me and Jules, because obviously Jules and I were heavily involved in the sort of background of the PlayCon convention, we were like spitballing ideas and freaking out about how to make this work. So the only way we could make it work was everybody got one turn of the game. And we made this massive line, and you came along to the front and you took the action, and then the next player came along and took an action. And then basically we were just relay funneling people.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, it was really bad. And it was like a real, like almost like a game of life, basic roll and move, pick up a card.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was kind of like the fire convention or festival, fire festival that turned absolutely out terribly. It kind of reminded me of that. It was abysmal. So if it's better than that, we have won. As long as it's better, that is the low bar that I'm setting. As long as it's better than that, we are winning. So
as soon as you said one game, I thought, oh my God, that's going to be like COVID toilet paper type fighting over this one game.
Yeah. Now, we've got a procedure down. So if anything goes to custard at PlayCon and there's only one game available, don't worry, we have you. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
If that situation occurs, we already have a plan. So no stress. However, I just got back from Japan, guys. I haven't really spoken to you much about that recently, but it was brilliant. Had a great time. Finn had an awesome time. There's a fantastic photo of me floating around in the Discord server on a roller coaster ride. Honestly, it looks like the vein on the side of my head has jumped out and tried to choke me to death. It's that big. I was stressed out to the nines on that ride. I've never been in a ride like it. So.
It's quite funny, that photograph, because you've got you and your partner on either side of your son, Finn, who's 8. Is he 8?
Yeah.
8. And he looks delighted, and you two look scared out of your minds.
Terrible. I was like, I like roller coasters. I enjoy roller coasters. MJ does not enjoy roller coasters. But her hair was so over her face at the time, you can't see the terror. But this thing was like on another level. I've never been anything like this in my life. As soon as it started to go, I felt all the pressure on my chest and getting pushed into the seat. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. What's happening? Is this thing secure? And then Finn next to me didn't make a noise. He was absolutely having a whale of a time, because the day before we'd gone on to get on the rides and he was too short. And it was like that thing in Big, where you can't ride on the ride. And I'm telling you, it would have been less than a centimeter. And he was devastated because there's 3 quite big rides there that we wanted to go on, and he couldn't go on them. But the following day, did the dad thing, and he wore some different shoes. I didn't put any packers in the bottom, which I had intended to do, but I wasn't that,
irresponsible.
Well, I was going to say organized. That's fine. I wasn't that irresponsible, and he got measured up, and he was bang on the height. The guy gave him the red wristband, and then we just hit the heavy rides hard. So he was so excited. I don't think that it could have been the scariest ride in the world, and it wouldn't have taken the smile off his face. So yeah, it was great.
That's great.
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
Yeah, but I did do a bit of shopping while I was out there.
Oh, did you ever?
The board games industry, and I really didn't think I'd get as bad as I did. I claimed I only bought 4 games, which after unpacking my suitcase was an absolute lie. I think I bought like 9 games. So that's not that bad, but I actually
pretty good.
But you transported a different number.
Yeah, I brought back like 19 games, and one's for Jules as an example, one's for Dana, there was Dan took a couple, Lauren has one, a few other people took some games that they were really wanted to get. But I didn't. The problem with being a bit of a ADHD head and not sleeping great is everyone goes to bed and then you're left on your own and you're in one room. You can't really leave because everyone's asleep and there's nothing really to do apart from be on your phone just researching Japanese games, which was my oath. And I was just researching all these games. And then I just started to figure out how to translate some of the stuff into English using the translator. And even the websites that wouldn't translate, I figured out a way around those. And then I just started to buy games online. Basically, the Advent Games website equivalent, and then just getting them shipped to the hotel room. So I was just buying games online and getting them shipped here, and yeah, it was great. I bought a bunch of games that I couldn't get in the stores that I was really interested in. One of them was Kabuki Tricks. It's like a trick taker game with all these different kabukis on it, and it's apparently really, really interesting. It was at the Japanese games market this year and did well. And I believe you can actually get it online from a Singapore distributor direct, and the shipping's not actually that bad from what I could see, but I was too far down the rabbit hole to have any sense. I was like, I'm getting it now. I have to get it now. I really want to get this game right now.
You're experiencing what I would experience back in the 90s and 2000s with the Home Shopping Network.
Yeah.
And late at night, and suddenly this knife that I really didn't need suddenly seemed like essential. I had to have this knife and I would buy it.
Yeah. And would they market it as the sharpest knife in the world, right?
That's right. And they would
sharpest knife in the world.
They would show it cutting a shoe or something like that.
And stab it into Superman's chest and it just goes straight through. And it's like, this is the knife made out of 72% kryptonite.
Yeah.
I got to get it. And the other one was Leiden 1593, which is actually a kind of historical game about the tulip industry in Holland. And MJ's mum is from that part of the world, and she also is absolutely loves tulips everywhere, tulip stuff. She loves collecting them, little tulip plushies, tulip clock, tulip everything. So I got this game because I figured, that'd be kind of cool. Like, it's tulip related and it's not heavy, but it's not light. And I think if MJ and I learn it, it might be something she might give a try. She loves the Rummy Cub and those kind of games, but she doesn't, like I said before, isn't massive into board games. But I feel that maybe this might be the theme that actually pulls her over the line to try something different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought we'd give that a go. But yeah, the games out there were great. They were really interesting, crazy themes. And I was actually blown away. I'm really sad that they don't have English versions of a lot of these games, but they have a lot of what would be like murder mystery, true crime kind of games.
Those are a massive thing in Southeast Asia and across Japan as well at the moment. There's actually a really interesting video that Quinn's from Shut Up Sit Down, I'm pretty sure it was his channel, did on those things. They are a huge, a sort of a subgenre of the board game space that has not reached the English market yet.
No, I could tell because you go into any game store and it's like they have all the games, small games, I couldn't believe how many Western games there were.
Yes.
So many. I went into one board game shop and there was a bunch of guys playing Inventions. Like, I was like, wow, that's so cool. And I got to chat to them and take some photos and, hang out for a bit. And it was awesome. But they also, they have like this whole shelving unit just for these murder mystery kind of even some like noir looking kind of games, but they are obviously massively popular because they have so many of them. And they looked really interesting. Unfortunately, I couldn't understand anything, but I could use the Google lens to translate the back of the box. And some of them were great. I'd be like, wow, I all I could think was, Dan would love this. Dan would love this. He'd love this one. So I didn't take any photos of them because I didn't want him to try and be like, I'm going to get the whole game and translate all of it myself because that would be crazy. But I have also done that, though. I bought a light game that there's no English rules for in hope to translate it and play it. So that is something that I'm going to try and do over the next few weeks. It's super light, super easy, but it was their number one ranked game in maybe 3 or 4 different shops. So I feel like it could be quite fun. And the people on the video looked like they were having good fun, so they suckered me into buying it. So I bought a copy. Don't know what it's called because I haven't translated it yet. But hey, I'll figure it out. It looks like you have cards and you're putting them into like a soup bowl and you're kind of flicking them in as quick as you can. There must be some kind of rules to it, obviously, but I'll figure that out later. But it looked great, so I bought it. On that, though...
How good is Google Translate, though, for that kind of thing?
Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. Yeah, unbelievable, because you did show me that at one point where you could just point your camera towards the back of the box and it literally translated the entire back of the box within seconds.
Those murder mystery games... It wasn't actually on Quinn's like RPG channel. I think he was on another YouTube channel. I need to find the video. But if I'm not mistaken, those games are called Jubentia, and they're like murder mysteries crossed with LARPing, like live action role playing. There's whole clubs where people go to those. They're almost like escape rooms, and they're just set up with those games, and people play them all the time. I have to find the video.
Yeah. I wonder if they're replayable or they're a bit like an exit game.
I think they're a bit more like an exit, like they're one and done. I could be wrong, but yeah, there's a video I watched online somewhere about them, and they are huge. They are so insanely popular.
Well, on that, Dana, back to the Google Translate thing. Obviously, the last time I was there and was a backpacker, I didn't have Google Translate. I was just do everything myself, but having an 8-year-old son and stuff, sometimes you want to look at certain things for them to understand what's happening, so you can then sort of relay the information back to them of like, oh, this means this and this is for that. And one of those times that kind of stuck out was when we went to a restaurant and we all sat down and it all looked like beef and noodles and kind of standard stuff. And then when I translated it, it was all different types of tongue. The whole restaurant was tongue.
Oh, yeah.
And Finn actually was really fine about it. But initially, it had been a big day. Everyone was a bit tired. We weren't going to get up and leave to sort of appease him to say, oh, look, don't worry about it. We'll move on. But we sat down.
We don't want to offend people. We'll just eat the tongue.
I don't mind it. I had it before, but for an 8-year-old, man, I've been when I was 8, I didn't think vegetables came out of any other shape than the alphabet. Do you know what I mean? Like all of my potatoes were alphabet shaped.
Yeah.
From the 90s where they just chucked it in the oven. Like they were that was the big thing. So yeah, I think if my mom turned around and said, "You're eating beef tongue," I would have just been like, "Not happening. No way." But he was like, yeah, all right, whatever, I'll try it. He tried it and was like, this is lovely. And he smashed it, which was fine. But yeah, that's kind of funny. I would have just assumed it was beef. You taste like beef. You wouldn't know. But the fact of using Google Translate and going, oh, it's all tongue. Yep, it's all tongue. So choose your tongue, Finn. Okay. What tongue do you want?
So if I go to Japan, when I go to a restaurant, I'm not using Google Translate.
I'm just leave that.
Just leave it at beef. It's beef.
Yeah. So what about yourselves? What have you all been up to? What about you, Jules? What's been going on?
I've just been pretty busy lately. I haven't played a lot of games, but I've recently got to play Caesar. It's been a while since I played that, and such a good game. It's just so snappy and so Moorish. You just want to go again and again and again. I love that game. It's absolutely one of the best 2-player games. Caesar's been fantastic. I've played a couple of other games that are prototypes. I won't really talk about them because they're still in development at the moment.
Do you find that you're doing that more with your role at Let's Play Games, that you're playing more prototypes than you ever did before?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't really count any of those plays in my stats or anything, even though I know the game will be published. It feels different when I'm playing it. Like I'm not playing to win, I'm playing to try out and push the boundaries of the game and see where problems are. And a lot of times you don't play the full thing, you play halfway, or whatever the case may be. But I am doing a lot more of that at the moment. But yeah, it's still lots of fun. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I haven't played Caesar yet, but I have been starting to play a lot more two-player games like Beer and Bread, and some of these Japanese trick-taker games are only two-player as well, which I'll talk about later. But is Caesar on BGA? Like, is it available on BGA?
I don't know. If it is, well,
I'm not sure.
I'm in trouble.
That would be a great platform to have it on, because it's so snappy and quick, and I think it would work really well.
It would, yes.
But on my sidestep onto BGA there, I was surprised at how much BGA we did while I was traveling, to be honest. Yeah, Finn's never used BGA. Like we said, he's 8, and the apps and stuff on an iPad and that are definitely tilted towards just keep smashing the button, apart from like things like Wordscapes and stuff like that him and MJ play together. But yeah, he really got into BGA while we were away. And you know what it's like when you've been out all day and you have like a bit of a relaxing time, say between 3 and 5 before you like go out again for dinner and check out arcades and stuff at nighttime. That was a good time for him to sit down and play some BGA, and he got really into it. I mean, his favorite games are Azul, Trailblazers, It's a Wonderful World. These are all available on BGA. And Just One is also available on BGA, which he also really likes. So it was really good to see him play those, but not with just us. He was playing them online against other players. And when he had his first win on Azul, he was so happy with himself. He's like, oh, I did it. And I did that strategy where like, I thought like, I've got enough points now that if I just finish it quick, he can't catch me. And I know this. And yeah, it was really, really cool. Like it was really like a pleasure to see him play a lot of these games on BGA. And it also just gives him better practice so that when he plays with us, he already does pretty well, to be honest, but he has a bit more insight into different strategies and different metas that we don't really play, just like how I play Barrage online, and I've seen so many players play different ways and absolutely whoop me completely, like double my score. It's been eye-opening. So for him, I feel like he's getting that same experience with the BGA. We played as a family as well. Like when we were on a bus at one point, we all played a game of Azul together just to sort of kill some time because we were on a bus for 3 hours. But yeah, I found BJ's been really good recently, and I've been playing Pipeline in the alpha stage, which I still think needs some work, but I have enjoyed my plays, and it's a great excuse to play Pipeline on the move with friends. So I've definitely enjoyed that. But yeah, the playing of BGA has been really good. And I originally hated BGA. I wasn't a big fan. I'm definitely completely turned over, and I think it's really good for the hobby. I think just any excuse to learn new strategies and play games more, and even learn games on there. I've seen plenty of people playing games on there just to learn them. They start with that, and then you might play it and you go, you know what? I've played it 3 times now. I kind of understand the rules. This game's just not for me. I'm not going to buy it. That's fine. I
have a friend who we play regularly, and we play new games that we've never played before. And we literally don't read the rule book or anything. We don't do anything, and we just start out playing. Muddle our way through. And some games you can pick up quite quickly, and then other games that you actually find out more rules.
Yeah.
or that things that you were doing that you were playing wrong when you were playing the physical game, and you think, oh, actually on BGA it says I can't do that, and we have actually been doing that. So it's excellent. And I agree with you. The range of games is amazing. But good, really great games. Scythe has just come out as well, which I've been trying, and also Distilled came out on BGA as well, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
And No Thanks is on there under a different name, right? Under the original name. I can't remember what it's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's got a different name on there. I'm pretty sure it's on there as something else. But it was really funny at the airport watching Finn play, and he was playing, and I just had a podcast on, and he was playing just one, and he had the word manure was the word, and he had to think of a clue for that. So he was like, "Oh, I could put poo, but like, I think like." That doesn't really link it to like an animal, and it's more like an animals thing. So he put droppings. That was his word.
He's so clever.
And I was like, I said, yeah, well done. And then you can imagine the 4-letter word of someone else's clue that came up. And he looked at it and looked at me and said, it says you can't swear on here, but he is. And I was like, I don't think it really matters. I think that only if you complain, someone will. And he's like, okay, that doesn't fuss me that much. But yeah, it was kind of funny that he didn't stoop to that level.
You cannot swear in the chat.
Yeah.
In the chat. So if you, and actually it's quite strict. It's like if you say, oh, damn it, you took my tile, you get a warning. Like you can't say damn or
is that why your rating's like rock bottom?
4%.
That's it. So it's pretty strict on
What about you, Dana? What have you been up to?
Well, I had my very first painting session. That was actually my oath from the last episode that I was on.
Did you paint or were you the model?
No, yeah, right. You definitely don't want to see this as a model. Anyway, no, I painted my bee from apiary.
Oh, nice.
And actually there were 2 of us painting our bees, and then we had another lady who was painting something else for Wingspan. And she sort of helped us through a little bit with her experience, but I did put a post on Facebook, I think, recently about it, asking for some beginner tips. And I know, Jules, that you're an experienced painter, but
sure, yeah.
I really had no clue what I was doing, and I was quite nervous because to me, I think, oh God, if I paint this and it looks like something a kindergarten child has done, it's going to completely ruin it. I'm not going to want to play the game because I'm going to be too embarrassed. So I really hope that I don't ruin it. But look, it's moderately childlike, the completed version of this bee. You wouldn't want to look up at it too close. I bought, like on Amazon, I bought some kind of weird contraption that you stick on your head and it makes your eyes look like, Coke bottles.
Yeah, so
the base of Coke
when you posted that picture of you wearing that, all I could think was Rick Moranis in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That is literally what you look like with that photo.
There are a few professional painters out there that I know use those things, and one in particular refers to them as sexy goggles.
Oh, shocker. It was a shocker. But anyway, look, it did help me. It did help me see. I have seen other people use like a magnifying glass that sort of is on a gooseneck. On a gooseneck, that's it.
Yeah.
On a gooseneck and use that. But I really didn't even know what types of paints. I bought a beginner painting kit from More Than Meeples, funnily enough. And and I just sort of went ahead and gave it a go. But I'd love to know what you would recommend, what advice you would give a beginner painter.
Oh, man, I don't even know where to start. But I guess one of the things I do reference a bit is sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the quality of your materials can make a huge difference in your experience. Most of the paint brands you'll find out there in hobby stores are great. It doesn't matter really which one you'll pick, you'll go fine. But buying a brush that's at least half decent and not getting a $2 one from the local corner shop will make a massive difference in your experience and how enjoyable the painting is. So there are definitely some things I don't think people should skimp on, even though I know it's tempting when you start a new hobby. You go, I'll buy the cheap one and see if I like it. Miniature painting, unfortunately, I think with some of the materials, you need to just spend a little bit more. You don't have to go top tier, but a little bit more to actually enjoy that experience. But I could talk for hours and hours and hours and start a new painting podcast if I wanted to talk about that. But it's what my other favorite hobby, and I absolutely love it.
It was actually, sorry.
Yeah, my limited knowledge as well, Dana. Even if you do stuff it up, you can strip it back and start again. I've done this. I did it on the podcast a long time ago. I did a paint job on a thing that I really was like the centerpiece for the Kingdom Death Monster, and I didn't like it. I really, really, really hated it a lot. And I bought the materials online to remove the paint. Bought a little cheap toothbrush and stuff and just scrubbed it all off. It did take me probably 3 hours to sort of strip it back and get it back to how I wanted.
That's a big model, though.
It is a big model.
I was going to say, that's an awful long time.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it was so big that, and the product, once you start to use it, obviously it strips paint off, then that paint is going into the liquid product that you have.
Yeah.
So I probably cleaned the bowl out a couple of times, and I took it off, then I left it to dry, then I did a second one. So that is included in that time. And it really took it back to just being all grey. And I was really happy with the result. And I've done a paint job on it since and much happier with the progress of that paint job. So it's worth it.
I think my probably the hardest thing for me is just the finer details in painting. I'm on the older side, so my fine motor skills I don't think are that great. And so trying to paint like small things, like little details in the eyes or something like that, it ends up turning out pretty ordinary. And I don't even know how to get better at it, other than I'm assuming it's just practice. You get better at it.
Yeah, it's just practice. Eyes are always tricky. Even someone painting for a long time still has to really concentrate real hard to get it right. So, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I found an interesting fact. I had no idea that painting brushes, like the good painting brushes, are made out of squirrel hair.
Sable hair. Yep.
Yeah, I had no idea. And, well, on this video that I watched, they did say that they don't kill the squirrels for their hair. They just catch them and snip their hair, which was good. But I had no idea that these very fine detailed brushes, because you see some, it's just like almost like one hair sort of sticking up, and it's actually squirrel hair. So that was kind of interesting.
There's a lot of naked squirrels in Europe. Let's just say that. Keep that paintbrush industry going. Something else as well that I definitely picked up when I started painting. I know we're sort of sidetracking into painting quite hard, but I stupidly, and I don't know what the word would be, like maybe ego driven. I don't know, but there's sort of two options you can do. You can get the speed paints, or you can get just the normal paints, right?
Normal acrylics,
Normal acrylics. And I got the normal acrylics thinking, if I start doing it like this, it's going to be better because I'll learn how to use the paints. I'll learn how to water them down properly. I'll learn this process. There will be tools and skills that I can keep using and using and using again. And that is right. However, I didn't realize how much time you need to invest into painting stuff. It takes, if you want to do a decent job, for me, I feel like I was spending like 10 hours plus on one of my models, and I'm no pro. They still come out quite average, but I was happy with them. I'd be content with that thing. And, it's great. You put on a podcast or something, or a TV series, you put it on the background while you're working away. But that's like a 12-hour day where I don't have that sort of free time. So I really wish I had bought the speed paints, and I have looked at buying speed paints since, so that I can just get some of these things done, because I'm sick of them being grey. And I would love to spend more time learning and doing other stuff with paints, but I just don't. Realistically, my life isn't catered to having that kind of time. So I really should get the speed paints, and I'm definitely going to look into doing it because I do want to get back into it because I did enjoy it while I was doing it. But yeah, I think the speed paints you might not get the same kind of level of paint quality or skills because they are different thicknesses and different to the paints. But however, you just get used to sitting down at the table and spending some relaxing time. You get used to brush movements and doing stuff that you might not have ever had the skill set of doing. I've never lifted up these brushes before. And you learn like you can still do dry brushing and stuff once they're finished and once they're dry. So you will pick up other skills, and you can also, highlight edges and things like that with certain, the acrylic paint still to get a bit more detail out of them. But yeah, I as a beginner wish I had done the speed paints first and then maybe gradually got better and better at it because at the time during COVID and stuff, I had the time because I wasn't really doing anything on the weekends. I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing that. But now that I haven't got no time to paint these minis. Like I just don't, so I'd look into speed paints. So I think they're a great way to just get used to painting.
They're the same. That's the same as a contrast paints.
Yes, same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, just different brand. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so that's what I did, and I was quite proud of myself that I have been doing some painting. But the other game that I have been playing is I managed to pick up a copy of Aqua. It's Aqua Biodiversity in the Oceans, and it's published by Sidekick Games and the OP Games. I think it's the OP Games. It's not OP Games. I think it's the OP. It's a tile laying game. I think I really like tile laying games. I've just seemed to be playing more those types of games more often lately, maybe because they're often family weight and they're easier to get to the table. So this tile laying game is similar to Cascadia, I guess, where you're going to be drafting one hex tile from a market of tiles, and they have different colours on them and different patterns to signify a reef in the ocean. And your task is to try and create out of these multicoloured hexes hex shapes of the same colour. And if you can do that, you can place a fish of that colour on top, which is the shape of a hex. And the fish, if you do that, you'll get points at the end of the game. The hard thing I found was that I'm not accustomed to making these hex shapes in tiles. Like, with Cascadia, you're trying to join certain colours together and keep them adjacent so that you score points. Well, this here, you have to make an actual hex shape out of these tiles of different colours. And I tell you what, it literally did my head in. I was looking at this going, I have no idea how I'm going to make this shape. And then I would think I had made the shape of a hex and actually I'd made an arrow or something like that. It's not even the shape. So it was really was, I just call it brain burning. I would say unexpectedly so. The other thing that you can do in this game is you can actually create adjacent, you can put colours adjacent to each other and create a reef. And if you have those tiles, those hex tiles with fish on them, and they're connected or they're touching the reef, then your points are doubled, or they could be tripled. So that's another part of the game. And then if you create these larger hex shapes, you can put on top of the fish, you can put even larger animals. So it's almost like a food chain type thing where you could put dolphins or you could put hammerhead sharks on top of them. It was, as I said, it was really brain burny, and the artwork was beautiful. It's from Vincent Dutrait.
Oh, yes.
And the components are these really nice, thick tiles. And I really, really enjoyed it. It's only it's probably a 45 to 60 minute game, something like that. It's even got quite a bit of variability in it because it's got the goals in the game, the scoring goals change each time. You've got different tiles that you can put out for that. So I got this game for about $50 on sale, and I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really, really good. So Aqua, biodiversity in the oceans.
Talking about games that do your head in, I played a 2-player trick-taking game that we picked up in Japan called Peas.
Oh, yes.
Now, it looks super cute. Like it's a little pea on a plate. I'll show you guys.
I did.
Their little faces on them. And basically, it's really interesting. So it's a 2-player game, Trick Taker. Imagine like a giant pea pod that would be on a plant laid out in front of you. But that's made up of 10 cards. So that's the tricks. You're trying to win those cards, okay? So they're lined out in a row. Now, the sprout end of the pod, which is at the very end of those 10 cards, essentially, if you play because essentially I'm going to play 10 cards, the other player's going to play 10 cards, right? We're sitting opposite each other, and there's those row of 10 cards out in front of us. Those row of 10 cards have peas on them, but they also have worms. Worms are negative points. You don't want to win those tricks. Peas are positive points. You want to win those tricks. And there's 5 and 5. There's 5 sets of worms. Some of them have 3 worms, which is -3. Some have 3 peas, positive 3 points, right? However, the really interesting part is as I play my cards out, so I'll play a card and then my opponent would play a card on their side of the 10 cards. They don't have to follow where I placed my card. They can place it somewhere completely different. There's 4 suits in the game. The cards go from 1 to 6, I think. So 6 is the strongest. So the interesting part is if you play your first card or any card at any point at the place where the sprout is, that slides across and locks in, and that is the first card that you deal with. And kind of like in It's a Wonderful World, how you have those cascading effects happen, that happens in this game. So the first thing that will happen is we would resolve the first card once all 10 cards have been placed on each side. So you've got 20 cards already preset. So if it's on my side and we resolve that first card, I had a 3 pink and the other player had a 4 purple, I win because they didn't follow suit, right? So I would win that
they're all played
card.
face down.
Correct. They're all face up. So we all see all the cards. It's all open information. But then when the other player wins a trick, we start to resolve their side first. So if they win a trick at some point in the game, it switches over.
Okay, so they've led suit.
Correct.
The
if
lead
I lay
matches, yes.
Correct. And that gets really annoying because you just sit there looking at it and let's say you've only played 5 cards each. They're all scattered all around the map. And you're like, so if I'm going to win this one, it's going to be on my side. And then I'm going to try and lose that one so that they get 2 worms in a row. So I need to play offsuit on this. And it is a mind melt. And you literally sit there looking at it going, I think I've made a mistake here. And then once you've got 2 cards left each, you place them, you're like, oh yeah, I'm definitely screwed. Here we go. And I've won that. That's 3 worms, I won 2 worms, I won 2 peas. They win a pea, and then it just flips backwards and forwards. And it can cascade into terror like really quickly, because if the ones when you start to win, you're like, no, I didn't want to win these ones. Why am I winning all the negative points? And it's really cool. Like, it was so simple. It's literally 39 cards in a box, and the cards are 50 mil by like 35 mil. They're tiny little cards. It's a tiny box, and it's great. Even the first player marker is a card with just 1 P on it. Super simple. Plays
is it best of 3 rounds or something like that?
Correct. So you both get a sprout card each, and you flip it to show that it's grown, and then you just flip it back, and that's the win. Kind of like in Skull, where you flip your coaster backwards and forwards. But that's it. And it was really great. Really loved it. Super simple, really fun. Definitely hurt my brain a lot. And MJ's loads. MJ sat there staring at it for ages at one point.
That she sounds great.
Yeah, she was like, I don't want to lose, but I feel like I've already lost and I can't dig myself out of this hole. And then when she played 2 more cards, I was like, sweet, let's go. Okay, I won that one. you win. She's like, no, you win that one as well. I'm like, oh, do I? Oh, no. Oh, no. And then you look at the line and you're like, oh, I'm going to win all these negatives. Oh, my God. And then you start winning them all. Then it flips back onto her side and she gets like 3 Ps and that's it. But I've got so many negatives, it counts as like the 5 points that I've won. It's great. Really loved it. Super simple. Probably can pick it up online somewhere. I'm sure of it. Like it's got English rules inside the box. So I'm sure there would be a way to get hold of it. But if you like Trick Takers, 1-2 player game, check it out. It shouldn't be that expensive. It's 39 cards in a tiny, tiny, tiny box. So yeah, well worth looking at.
But you and I did play a bigger brain burning game, of course, in Luthier, which is we played a prototype from Paverson Games, and it's coming to Kickstarter, I think, on the 16th of July. And it's designed by Dave Beck, who designed Distilled. This was actually the first prototype game I have ever played. I've never played a prototype before. And, it was wonderful to be able to, that Dave Beck was able to give us a copy to try it. And it was an amazing game. Adrian and I just played a 2-player game, but it was really quite a tense, medium, I would call it medium to heavy worker placement.
Yeah,
it's a worker placement, blind bidding game, and it's got a wonderful theme as well, which is Luthier. Actually, I had to look it up to find out what a luthier was, but it's a person who creates musical instruments. So it was a fascinating game. What did you think of it, Adrian?
I really enjoyed it. It was only 2-player. We played it at 2, which is it still works really well at 2, even though it's like a blind bidding mechanic. I won't go into too much detail, but essentially, as you place out your workers, that information is secret, right, to the worker placement slots, but they have different values on them, and that depicts who gets to take actions first in that space. However, the amazing part, but also the absolute most frustration part of the game was that when you finish, done, right, cool, all workers are out, let's resolve stuff. Player 1, you choose what location gets resolved first, right? So let's say one of the locations gets you some sort of income or it gets you some sort of benefit. You might be hamstrung on your complete strategy that place gets resolved first, but you might be the 3rd player. And that's going to be a problem because you then have other players going, oh, I'm going to choose this action first. And even though you have a worker there, it's out of sync to what you need. And it is so annoying. I was literally sitting there.
In a good way.
In an amazing way. It's great. It's it's the tension's unreal because I was sitting there going, Dana's first this round because of what's happened previously. I have to make sure that she picks that spot first. If she doesn't pick that spot first, my entire round strategy is done. Like I need to pivot and figure out what the hell I'm doing because I've just focused on going from A to B to C. But if Dana does C first, I'm screwed. And it worked 50-50. Half the time it was fine and it worked out okay. And as soon as you took that first action, I was like, whew, okay. Now what happens? I can choose this one next and this one's default going to be last. Brilliant. But there was a couple of times where she'd pick the other one. I'd be like, no, what's going to happen? And then I'd have to figure out and juggle stuff around. But I was very impressed with the game. Brilliant theme. Theme came through great.
The art looks amazing.
Beautiful on the table. Yeah, really clever.
Oh, that's right. And it's I took photos of it, of course, but it's a prototype, so it's not final. But it was very impressive already.
Yeah, agreed. I'd love to play this at 4 because I reckon just the level of tension in that would just be ridiculous because you're just sitting there going, well, I'm last, so I haven't really got a say. And then someone picks the one that you want, and then you're like, oh, hang on, they're going to do this first. That means I can get this and then get that. And you have this sort of cascading combo that happens. And that's just all relying on another player doing something that you really want them to do. And that's fun because that's a mind game in itself. And I tell you what, when you get good at the game and you know what you're doing, I bet you can look at the table and go, yeah, I'm not picking that first because if I pick that first, they're going to get this, then they're going to finish that instrument, and then they're going to, I'll just pick this one and to just, take a suboptimal move to really screw the other players out of other stuff. would be fun. So yeah, it was good. I really dug it, really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see it come to Kickstarter. I'd back it if the price is right. So we'll just have to see. That would be my kind of caveat on it. I really thought it was good. So,
and don't forget to listen to an upcoming episode as well, because Dave Beck will be coming on one of the pods in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
so
and
listen
you can
out for
also
that.
go back and listen to our old episode of when he spoke about distilled, and he was he's another one of those doctors or professors that I got to talk to somehow, which was quite interesting. Like I said on the episode 300, I always get the doctors or the professors for some weird reason. But yeah, he was really interesting, and his insight into the theme of distilled was really amazing to hear about and to talk to him about. I really thoroughly enjoyed chatting to him about that. So it was, I'd love to see if he has the same kind of emotional attachment to instruments and stuff like that. So I'm sure that we will, and we'll ask him about that pretty soon. So yeah, it's very cool.
Step into the world of More Than Meeples in Fortitude Valley, Brisbane. They offer an impressive selection of board games, Kickstarter editions, and card games to suit every gamer's taste. Whether you're a collector or a casual player, their knowledgeable staff can help you find the perfect game. Visit their store or explore their collection online at morethanmeeples.com.au. More Than Meeples, where every game is an adventure.
So we have talked about a lot of awesome and interesting games. Jules, what is your sizzling game for this week? What would you like to sort of highlight as the creme de la creme?
Oh, this one is something special that has been talked about in the past, but I got to play it again recently and now have my own copy of the game, which I am absolutely delighted about, and that's La Famiglia. So I think the subtitle for the game is The Great Mafia War, if I'm remembering correctly. But this is a very interesting game. It's published by Capstone, and it is a 2 versus 2 only game. There is no other player count. Must be 2 versus 2. I wasn't too I love the artwork, and I wasn't too sure of it probably a year ago when I watched a playthrough. I think it was on Heavy Cardboard's YouTube channel. But it intrigued me enough to watch the video, and as I watched it, I'm like, okay, no, this is really great.
This actually got talked about on our Patreon episode of most anticipated games for this year. And I remember you not being like, you were interested, but you weren't like super crazy. But I was crazy because I was like, I don't know much about it, but I know it's 2v2, and I really do love that because it's so not unique. Okay, it's not unique, but it's rare.
Yes,
it's definitely
rare.
It's definitely less published, that kind of style game, the 2 versus 2 mechanic. But any of those games I've really enjoyed.
Yeah,
I've really, really enjoyed them, and I think they are hard to table. I would say that would be like a caveat to that kind of game, but they tend to just sing so well.
Yeah,
right. And from my short experience of it, I felt brilliant. So love to hear what you think now you've played it a bit more.
Yeah, on more plays, I can see this game. I think it's a game that will benefit most when you have a group, or at least a number of players that know the game well, and the strategy becomes so much deeper. So La Familia is sort of broken into 2 phases, really. You've got an action selection phase and then a phase where you just execute everything. And the action selection phase is really interesting. You've got discs and different columns, and you're dropping them down to different actions. And most of those locations are, one worker only. And then you've got actions where you can pay a bunch of money to clear the whole row of those action markers, and you get to do a different action. And there's this real economy of managing your own pieces in the action selection mechanism, but also figuring out the right time to take those actions where it clears a row and it removes your opponent's pieces and limits their actions. I can't go into detail explaining it. It's definitely the most complex part of the game, and you need to see it to understand it. But just know that it's a very, very interesting mechanic, the way that they laid that out.
We struggled to understand how to even execute that action selection when we first played it, because even though it's quite clearly written, it is so unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to get your head around. But once we'd done a couple of rounds, it was fine.
Yes.
But that whole part of the game is genius.
Yes.
And you can eat. I mean, like I remember sitting there with Joe, and I'd be pointing at the little cheat sheet that you have that's on yours, and I'd be like, I'm going to take that action there.
Yeah.
So you take that one there, and then you take the action I would want, and I'd just look at Joe, and I'd be like, well, I'm out of ideas. That was the look I'd give him. I'm like, what do you want me to do, boss?
Is it no communication? Is that how it works?
No, you can communicate, but it has to be in front of the opposing team. So you get a little card that on one side has the action selection grid and a map of a mini map of the board in front of you, and you can communicate and go, well, if you attack there, but the card is hidden. But all your talking, the audio noise you're making has to be in front of the other players. So there's this real tension of trying to figure out what the other team is referring to, or even double bluffing about. I definitely had moments in the game where it's like, I'm going to attack there, and I had no intention of doing it. And they'd see this massive force building up. They're going to attack, and it didn't move. And I was doing something elsewhere. There's real tension in the game, and when you get to doing the execution, essentially what you're doing is you're building up forces across Sicily, and you're trying to take over territories. It's an area control game, and there's 2 win conditions. Either your team gets to control 6 areas, or one person on your team controls 5. Either of those happen when you go to check victory, then you win the game. If it does, the game goes for 4 rounds. If it doesn't neither of those things happen before 4 rounds, then it's the team that controls the most areas that will win the game. One of my favorite other mechanisms in the game is combat. Combat on the other side of this cheat sheet is a messy looking thing that looks complicated as all hell, but it's actually very straightforward. So if you are attacking with a car, there's car bombs in this game, which is so fun. The faction I played was really strong with car bombs. I was throwing them in and destroying 9 units, which is a lot in the game. But if you're attacking with a car, you get bonuses, and then you've got to decide whether you want to do combat by brute forcing or by finessing. If you brute force, you automatically lose 2 of your troops, and then from there, it's a 1-for-1 trade until there is only 1 person remaining in the territory. But if you want to finesse it, then you go into this combat that you use 1 of 3 cards. And this combat always reminds me of The Princess Bride and the poison. Where he's like, which cup has the poison?
Oh, yes.
It feels like that. So basically, every player has the same cards, and the 3 cards are, you've got one coward, 2 cowards, or a turncoat. So the cowards meaning they run away back to your headquarters, so 1 or 2 of them, or a turncoat, which turns one of your cubes, one of your mobsters, into the other family's mobster cube on the board. So what both players do is they both play one of those cards face down, and then the attacking player decides if they want to take the opponent's card and put it in front of themselves. And they would have to resolve it as if they played the card. All the cards in front of you resolve as if you'd played it. And then the defending player gets to decide, do they want to take the attacker's card? So you can have a swap of cards. Or one person can end up with both of the cards, or there's no swap at all. You just resolve what you both played in front of you. And there's this absolute mind game of well, did they play the 2 coward card thinking I'll take it, and then 2 of my guys are going to run away? Or it's a brilliant mechanism. It's obviously a bit luck dependent. It's trying to read the other player and predicting what they're going to play. But it just feels so fun. It's such a fun way of doing combat. And it's brilliantly designed because if you, as the defender, or the attacker, I should say, actually, going into a combat where you have far less troops, the right finesse, if you do that, pull off that finessed combat really well, it can absolutely swing it to your favor and win it, even though you're far outnumbered. And it feels so good because it makes it so that if you've got territories where you've got so many mobsters loaded up, you're never really safe. Attack with just a few and the person selects finessing the combat resolution. It puts all the pressure on the person with so much to lose. And I absolutely love that. It's such a clever game. La Familia it's a long game. It probably takes about 2 hours to play, maybe a little bit longer on your first play. But it is brilliant. It is so beautifully done. It's a lot of fun. You really get stuck into the teamwork, which is great fun as well. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's quite hard to get in Australia. And I feel like I read somewhere that there's an expansion in the works, and maybe that will change up the player count. I'm not sure. I have to dig up that article I found, but it is a brilliant game. One of the favorites I've played this year for sure.
I didn't even finish the game, and I would agree, like, wholeheartedly. That turncoat 3-card thing, that annoyed the absolute hell out of me. I am not good at that sort of stuff. And I was like, I literally have 3 cards, so I don't have a lot of choice. But man, this choice is hard to make.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, what is he going to pick? If he picks that cube turns into this goes, and I'm just lost. And I'm like, oh, stuff it. I'm playing this one. And then, I'd lose the fight or whatever. But man, it was so good. It's so much fun. And it's so clever and it's beautiful.
Yes.
It looks 10 out of 10 for the way it looks. It looks so good on the table as well. Just all the cubes, the colors, everything is vibrant.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a phenomenal design as well. So
we're all the quotes from the Godfather movies, or the accents, or the hand gestures.
Yes,
the Italian hand gestures were coming out.
Yes, there was a bit.
It would be quite thematic that way, like doing it like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that each team or each player plays a family, right? Is that right, Jules? You play a family.
It's the family.
Yeah.
The family.
But you get another card.
Family.
You get a card, don't you, that slides in. So you become like...
Yeah, so you have like a person's name and your family board's got the surname. Yeah.
Is there a consigliere and all that sort of thing? Is that sort of terminology? Is it
I don't think it goes quite that far.
No. Okay.
But yeah, you get to, like, your family name might be Ledecci or whatever, and you get to be Tony, so you're like, Tony Ledecci.
Yes.
And like, you get to get all of that. It's so good. Like, even just doing that is fun.
Yes.
And you get to play the game. You get to do that. That kills 20 minutes.
Yes.
While Joe was reading the rule book, I was just doing that on repeat. But yeah, it was very good. I really enjoyed it. So glad you got to get it, Jules, and get it to the table a bit, because I knew you were keen to play it once we started to get the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love it. La Familia.
Cool. La Familia by Capstone.
La Familia.
So what about you, Dana? What's your sizzling game? What have you been playing that you've just loved this week?
Well, I've been playing an older game. And when I say that, older, I'm talking about 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a look to see if this game, which is called Gizmos from Simon Games, and I had a look to see if it was on our list, if we had actually sizzled it, and it hadn't been. The only time this game seems to have been mentioned is in a bracket battle in episode 20.
Oh, that's a while back.
That was a long time ago. So I don't know if you know this game, but it's by Phil Walker Harding.
Sure is.
So I'm hoping that by the time this podcast airs, that I would have met Phil Walker Harding at PlayCon. So it's quite exciting. But this game is a 2-to-4 play game. It's a family game, and it has marbles in it. So immediately I'm going to probably want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an engine building game, and the theme of the game is that you're competing at a science fair, and you're building like a machine or a gizmo in real time, and whoever creates the most efficient machine will win the game. So the theme, how they translate the theme, is that you've got these 3 decks of cards, a level 1, level 2, level 3 gizmos, and there's a market of cards. Level 1, you need you need to pay for all these cards to build your machine. You need to pay for those in marbles. And these marbles, they're in 4 different colors, and they're meant to represent energy. And in the game, it also comes with a dispenser. So it's sort of a bit like Potion Explosion in that regard. But if you get the second edition, it comes with a sort of a plastic base part for the dispenser. The first edition, unfortunately, is cardboard, and it doesn't last particularly well. But the second edition is much better, and you'll have a little track, I guess, where marbles will come out. And during the game, you'll either be picking marbles from this track or picking blindly from inside this marble dispenser. And this marble dispenser is the best part of the game, of course. So when you build a part of your gizmo, as I said, you pay for those in marbles. The good thing about the parts of the gizmo that you can build, or these little gizmo sections that you can build, is they set up these really beautiful combos. So on your turn, you can either pick a marble, you can file, which means to like reserve a card in the market, or you can build a gizmo card and put it into your tableau. So to help you keep track of your gizmos, it comes with this dashboard, and it's got 6 different sections where you're going to be placing your cards in different columns. And first of all, you can have cards that maybe will increase the size of your marble pool, because actually you can, when you start, you have this ring that sits on the table where you put your marbles. And when you start the game, you only actually have 5 marbles. You can only have a maximum of 5 marbles in that pool. And that's not enough to be able to build any of the high scoring gizmos, the level 3 cards. So you'll want to get cards into your tableau that help increase that so that you can get 10 marbles, for example. Then you have other cards which will help you convert marbles in your pool to different coloured marbles, or it might change 1 yellow into 2 yellow, those kinds of things. Then you'll have a section in your tableau which will be the pick section. So this is what creates a lot of combos in the game. So for example, if you pick a black marble, you can pick another marble. Or if you pick a black marble, you get a victory point or something like that. So you can end up in the game, you can end up picking a black marble, and then you've got a card that says if you pick a black marble, you can pick another marble. So you pick another marble, it's blue. Then you've got a card that says if you pick a blue marble, then you can pick another marble, and you end up going in these combos sort of like that. There's also an area which is called a research area where you can just draw cards blindly from one of the decks. And if you can build it, you can. Otherwise, you can file it. So the game ends actually when a person has built their 16th card.
Okay.
But to be honest, I play it, like I often play this 2 players. We just play it till we've got 20 or 25 cards because we want it to sort of last longer and get those combos and chains happening. So it's actually really good at 2. And if you don't mind drawing the game out a little bit, it's a 40-minute game. It's not a long game at all. Yeah, whoever has the most points win, because each of those gizmos has for example, if you paid 3 black marbles for a particular gizmo, it means it scores 3 points. Sometimes you'll have additional scoring with certain gizmos that give you victory points for certain types of gizmos that you built. But outside of that, it's what's in your tableau will score, and that's the end of the game. It's a very tactile experience, which I love. I love this little marble dispenser, and I've actually printed my own little 3D version. I think it's probably a little bit simpler to table, or easier to table, I should say, than Potion Explosion. Potion Explosion it's a bit of a pain to get to the table sometimes because you're sorting out these different potion bottles and stuff like that. So I find this easier to get to the table. It's a bit quicker, and it's just great for families. And as I said, it's very adaptable for 2 players to play, and even 3 players, to be honest, to play a slightly longer game. It's also on BGA, plays really well on BGA. So yeah, that's Gizmos. It's a favourite. When I've introduced this to people, I haven't met anybody who doesn't like it. So it's a fantastic little game from Phil Walker Harding, Gizmos.
Nice.
Very cool.
Sounds pretty cool. I know that a few people that play this game actually on BGA, and it's quite popular on there. So
No,
it's had a bit of resurgence since it's been on there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Gizmos.
Hi there, it's Dana Banana from the Board Game BBQ, and if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I love a new board game smell. So when I'm in need of a new aroma, the best place to go is to head to Advent Games. They have a huge range of games from pre-orders to in-stock games. Actually, I don't think there's a store that can match their variety. Dean, the owner, is fantastic, and if I'm after a particular game, he's always so responsive. So if you're after a new board game smell, make sure you go to adventgames.com.au.
Right. Jules, I have an important question to ask you before we move on to sizzling my final game. How interested are you in Brink, the game?
Oh, Ivy Studios. It's on literally every
I know.
Everything I touch on my phone, there's an ad for it.
I have to say, like, after that experience at South by Southwest, or wherever it was, I can't even remember, of playing Tainted Grail, I'm definitely... Is it Tainted Grail? No, not Tainted Grail.
Veiled Fate.
Veiled Fate. I keep
Veiled
calling
Fate.
this... Don't worry. Jekyll versus Hyde and the other one, the one that I always get wrong, I just keep... They're too similar. Right? But Veiled Fate, I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
I thought it was brilliant. I just feel that you would be, and you loved Moonrakers as well, and this is set in the same universe as Moonrakers, even though it's not anything to do with it. It's just, you know, using that kind of aesthetic.
Yeah. How excited am I? To be honest, if I had to like rate my excitement out of 10, maybe a 5.
Oh, wow. Okay. In the middle.
I'm not that interested.
That's controversial as. I thought you'd go up for it.
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
Nothing about it actually looks that interesting to me. I don't know why.
Is it because it's not different enough from Moonrakers, maybe?
I don't know. Well, okay, there could be a lingering effect. They sent a review copy of Fractured Sky, and I played that. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good. And I'm seeing reminiscent things of, you know, the plastic player trays and all these bits that Fractured Sky had. I'm like, none of that needed to be there. Maybe that's tainting me. I really enjoy Moonrakers. With the right group, that is a fantastic game. I love Veiled Fate. I really enjoy Mythic Mischief. So they have some fantastic games. Brink doesn't look that exciting to me, to be honest. I don't know why. It just I've watched a few videos of people that have gotten review copies, and there's been some niggling remarks from those people about some issues, and the price is a lot as well. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. I can live without it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I did not expect that answer, brother.
No,
I just thought you'd be so excited. I don't know anything about it other than I've seen a lot of adverts, and I know that they've had 2 games that you really liked.
Yes,
with Veiled Fate and
I like Moonrakers and Mythic Mischief.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a few games in their publishing catalog that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, not that I was assuming you'd love it, I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's probably very middling. I'll play it if it's in front of me, but I'm not seeking it out at this point.
Fair play. Yeah. Fair play. Well,
there goes that.
That's that out of the window. That was a bit of a lull point.
Talking about is brilliant.
Yeah. No, I wanted to know your opinion. I just didn't know what it was, so it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, there you go. Hot takes.
Cool. There you go. Exactly right. So for me, it would be a bit amiss to me to not sizzle a Japanese game that I truly enjoyed. And I have played prior to this holiday. But while I was there, knowing the kind of games that Finn enjoys and knowing that these smaller oink games can fit in such a small space, I picked up a copy of Deep Sea Adventure while I was there. And MJ went out to the shops and to pick up like some food and some drinks and some snacks. So I said to Finn, look, we'll learn this game together and then we'll play it with MJ when she gets back. So that he had a full comprehension of what was happening, so that it just made it a lot smoother for us all to play together. And it's a fantastic game. If you haven't played Deep Sea Adventure, I know that most podcast members have played it and enjoyed it. It's a fantastic game of push your luck in such a small package, and it gives so much fun and tension out of 25 tokens and a couple of markers to move down a track. Like, that's really it. But it's just so clever. So for those who haven't played the game, essentially you have a little submarine and it has an oxygen marker on it. I think it starts at 25 and goes down to 0, basically, right? And your little pawns that your colors are start on the submarine, and you're trying to go down under the ocean to pick up treasures. How that works is you get these little markers that you place out, and you can do a nice straight line down and go deep, or you can sort of do a squiggly line, because it doesn't really matter. Essentially, you're making a track for you to follow. And on your turn, you roll 2 dice, and those values add up to, say, I think there's 2 3s, 2 2s, and 2 1s on the dice.
Yes,
there's nothing
that's correct.
higher than that. You roll them, you get a 4, you move 4 spaces down. The further down you go, the more valuable the treasure is. Pretty simple, pretty cool. And that's pretty much the start of the game. All players go down until one player picks up a treasure that starts the oxygen marker going down. Okay? So it's a bit of a push your luck of, how far do I want to go down to pick up a treasure, or do I want to just get small treasures that aren't worth as many points but get back up? The only other problem is, the more treasure you carry is the more you deduct from the total value of your dice. So if you have 2 treasures, you're going to -2 to your rolls. So you need to roll a minimum
of 3
to move. And Finn found this out the hard way as he was coming up, and the oxygen was going down and down.
Actually,
and
it's important to mention you decide a turn where you're going to turn around before you roll, and you have to go backward. But you can pick up stuff as you go backward.
Correct. You just have to say, I'm going back, then you roll. That's it. That's the only thing you sort of announce before you roll. And he got back to the space before the submarine.
Oh no!
With 3 treasures. Oh. I had 1, and he rolled and he rolled and he rolled, and he couldn't get it. They weren't moving anywhere, and I got right behind him, and I was like, it doesn't matter what I roll, because I'll just hopscotch over him, because you actually go over the top of another player. Yeah. But he was draining so much oxygen that I drowned as well. I was like, Finn, you can't do that.
You are allowed to drop treasures as well. Correct. Yeah.
Yes. But he was
Does that help you if you drop them?
Because it uses less oxygen.
Yeah.
And
okay, I got you.
Yeah, you also get to, if you're holding 3 treasures and decide to drop 2 of them, then you're only using 1. It drains 1 oxygen per treasure you're holding at the start of your turn. And it deducts that many, points from the roll for your movement. So
his biggest problem is that I had one of the dark blue ones, and he had like a medium light blue, then 2 whites.
Yes.
So he was like, "You've definitely got like 12 or more, and I've got between like 8 and 14. Yes. So I have to hold on to them and risk it." But yeah, it's just such great fun. So simple. That's basically the entirety of the entire game. There's nothing else really to it. And it just has so much fun, because especially with him being so stubborn, he's like, I got to get it this time. I'm going to get it. Oh, I haven't moved. And I'm just like, and I move like 2 spaces and I get closer and closer, but the oxygen level's going down. And I'm like, well, I can't drop anything, because if I drop anything, I've got nothing anyway. Yeah. So I might as well keep going. But then when basically what happens is when you take treasures, you place markers out in place of where that treasure was.
Yeah.
It's just a big blue circle with a cross through it. And at the end of the round, you take all of those crosses out and then you slide all the treasures up so that
The
the
track
map
gets
becomes
shorter.
more condensed. Yes. And if you die, you drop your treasures and that all just stays there. So some other players can come along and pick up your other stuff in the little pile.
Yes, a whole
and
stack.
Make their way back. Yes, the whole stack. But that's no good if there's 3.
Yeah.
You know, like, because you don't want to take all 3. So his 3 that sat at the top there, that sat there for the whole game.
Yeah.
No one was making that mistake again. No one would touch any of that treasure because they don't want to take the 3 and just be, oh yeah, definitely. You'd just be rolling and getting nowhere. So yeah, it's really clever, really fun. It's 10 years old. And for some reason, when I bought it, there was a 25th anniversary sticker on it. Now, that might be Oink Games' 25th anniversary.
Yeah, could be.
It could be the 25th publishing run of it. I don't know. But it's definitely still regarded as one of the top tier Oink games and very well loved. And it's so simple. It can be played on a space, honestly, of like 10 inches by 10 inches. Like you could do
airplane tray table.
Yeah, you could just do a tiny little track and just wiggle it left to right and play it. It's so condensed. It's brilliant. I really love it. And it's such a good experience, like when you're trying to push your luck in those games. And it's filled with fun and laughter every time you play it. And when MJ got back, instantly, as soon as she came through the door, he's like, we got to play this game. You've got to sit here. This is your space. You know, he'd already marked her a space out with a pillow to sit on. We're going to play it now. Let's go. And yeah, it was great. Great experience. Great game. Loved it. So Deep Sea Adventure by Oink Games is top tier.
Yeah, agreed.
Really good. Great game.
Cool. Well, that is all our sizzling games for this week.
Board game nights getting stale? Yearning for an adventure beyond the roll of the dice? Board and Dice crafts unforgettable experiences. Imagine building a legendary city in Teotihuacan, energizing Saxony with Nucleum, or facing monstrous threats in SideQuest Nemesis. From expert Euro games to epic escape rooms in boxes, Board and Dice offers unique games for all players. Find your next obsession at Board and Dice. Visit boardanddice.com to explore their games.
We have only one tiny announcement. No PlayCon announcements anymore because that was in an alternative past that we aren't really in yet, but we'll catch up, I'm sure. But Brisbane Game Day is on the 17th of August at the Royal on the Park Hotel. We held it there last time. It was great. Good atmosphere. Everyone came up for it. I think you guys all had a blast.
Absolutely.
It was awesome. Hectic, but yeah, brilliant. And yeah, those tickets are also flying out the door as well at the moment. So please grab a ticket if you intend on joining. Don't leave it too late. No question on the pod this week because we're in our weird time warp loop. So I'm really sorry. The ones from the previous episode will get answered in the next one after this one. So please bear with us and we will resume regular programming shortly. Just want to take this opportunity, though, to do a bit of a plug for our Patreon supporters. Like, we really, really appreciate everything you do for us. We're sure we're going to have an absolute blast at that Patreon party. I'm sure Dan won't be mixing Guinness with Mountain Dew.
You're sure we did have a blast.
Yeah, we had a blast.
That's right.
It was in the past.
Remember, we're in the future.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm sure. Was it? Or do I say it's going to be amazing or it was amazing? It was awesome. Who knows? Who can tell? Maybe I haven't even left there yet. That's how good it was because highly likely that I get
from the bar
there.
floor.
Pretty much. And yeah, huge thank you guys. Like, I hope you enjoy the Patreon content. I know that Dana and I did one recently, top 10 action movies of all time, which was really fun. Dana loves action films. I didn't realize how much.
I
it was
love
really
action
good.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the 80s ones.
Oh my God, I love them.
But yeah, thanks so much for your support. Remember, if you do want to sign up for Patreon, it's patreon.com/Board Game BBQ. You can check out some of the exclusive podcasts and other content that we do. Plus, we have trivia nights, Jackbox nights, and other crazy shenanigans going on. Please be sure to check that all out. Also, there's other ways to support the podcast without donating. Like, honestly, just tell your friends about PlayCon, just help us get the word out there. Like us on Facebook and Spotify and all these other platforms. Dana does amazing stuff on Facebook and the Instagram. Honestly, it's really fun and really interesting. And there's lots of conversation going on there, which we haven't really done as much, but it's now full pedal to the metal, and yeah, it's great. So please check that out. Also, jump in Discord. Loads of people have joined Discord recently and been like, hey man, like I've been listening to podcasts for 2.5 years and I thought it was time I joined Discord. And those people are awesome because it's like, you've got so much to look forward to. This is an amazing space. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, please be sure to check that out. Yeah, all the links will be in the show notes. Appreciate everyone, including just the listeners as well. So cool. Jules, swearing of an oath. Talk to me.
All right. Pretty much when we hang up this this podcast, I'm going to Mitch's house now, or I'll probably play it. So it hasn't happened. I swore,
because we're in that weird future time loop thing. Maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's happened.
Actually, that's right. I will have played it by the time this comes out.
Because the
I love
oath
the
is
time
not.
loop.
It's still no. Have you made? No, you've made the oath before the. Oh, I'm just confused.
Yeah, it's not. At least it's not 1984. That's what I know.
That's right. Look, at time of recording, I have not played it, but by the time this comes out, I will have played it. So I swore to play Undaunted Battle of Britain, which is the new Undaunted game that's the aerial fighting version of the game. Very excited to play it. I can't wait to do it. But this is also a weird time loopy thing because this will be something I'm swearing to do now, but hasn't, I don't know how, time loop stuff. But the oath is I am going to try and play 2 games in Designer Alley at PlayCon. I'm very excited for PlayCon, or that has happened. And I do want to try some of the designers' games. So that's what I'm going to do.
Nice.
It's a great oath.
Dana, I see your oaths are here. What's going on with your oaths?
Well, mine from the last podcast, whenever that was, I can't remember, was painting my bee, which I did complete. The other one was Bridge City Poker, which I did play. I only managed to play it at 2 players with my husband. It is an interesting game. It's a trick-taking game where you're just I tell you what, I don't know how many trick-taking games we've been playing. Well, all of us, I mean, you, Adrian, have been playing a ton of them. Lauren's been playing a ton of them. But anyway, this is another trick-taking game from the Portland Game Collective Kickstarter that I had. And you've got a hand of cards. There's four suits. I'll just briefly go over it. 4 suits, and they're all named after bridges in Portland. And you're playing one card into the trick, and not one card, but you're playing a meld into the trick. So it could be one card, it could be a pair, could be a triple. And this is where the poker aspect of it is. This is the only poker aspect, is that the things that you can play into a trick are poker hands. So there's a full house and there's a flush. That's the only poker aspect of it. The interesting thing is that you're trying to shed your hand, and once your hand has been shed, or someone's hand has been shed, or the deck runs out, then you're going to scoring. Probably the interesting thing is that before you score, you can discard any number of cards that you have in your hand that are of the same suit. So in this game, you don't want to score points. So if you've got a 10 in your hand, that's going to score 10 points. So you want to get rid of those cards. So it's quite interesting, that sort of part of the game. Plus there are action cards in it. A bit, I don't want to say it's like Uno, but there are action cards in it that will help you do certain things in the game. This game, according to BGG, is best at 2 and 3. Funnily enough, when my husband and I played it, we found that we would like to play it with more players. So I'm sort of going to reserve my judgment until I play it with more than 2 players. So I did enjoy it, but I still need to play it more. So I did that. The other one was Trick Takers, which is another Portland game collective. I haven't played it, but maybe before the time loop ends, I may have played it. So that's not I don't get a negative score yet.
Yeah, this is very true.
So this is my oath, and I feel really bad about this. Ages ago, when Dan was talking about a particular game, which is like a journaling type of game, journaling RPG, I think that's what you call it.
Yeah.
He was talking about a game called 1,000-Year-Old Vampire by someone called Tim Hutchings. And I was really intrigued by this game. And I have never played an RPG in my life. I've never done anything like journaling, nothing. But I was intrigued by it. And I had one of our community members actually take the time to give me his copy to play. And it's been sitting there and I haven't done it. So this is my oath to start playing this and give it a crack. So that's it. That's my oath, my new oath.
To write your memoir?
That sounds more like Dan's memoir, doesn't it? 1,000-Year-Old Vampire.
Oh, my God. Oh.
Anyway, my oath was to kind of just get involved in some of the Japanese games and Japanese culture of games and check out all the stores and all this stuff.
Can I just make a I'm just being picky, but you did say that you were going to teach a Japanese person a game.
I did say that, but when I got there and they were playing inventions and stuff in Japanese, I think I was out of my depth. But let's get real. I was like, I can teach some games, and then I came there and I was like, I can't teach any of these games. They're all in Japanese. Like there was, and you know what? Some of the interesting conversations I had actually was, and I couldn't believe, like every shop had copies of Barrage Duel.
Oh, wow.
And it's just in a little packet, like in a little Mylar sort of packet.
Yeah.
Because all the pieces are just punchable. But that was everywhere. Huh. And I walked into one game shop and they obviously had all of the Certas. They had so many games, this one game shop in Osaka. It was amazing. And the guys that were playing Inventions, I was asking them like what their favorite games were. And one of them pointed at the Barrage box and I was like, my man, like I was like, have you played the Duel one? And he just instantly went up there and pulled the packet out and he showed me that it was still in the packet and he's like, I want to play this next week. And I was like, I'm not here, but yeah, that would be great. It would have been great to play a game of that with him. But yeah, I didn't get the opportunity. Man, I was so busy, like constantly on the move. So, and I didn't think it was right to try and sit down and play a big game. So is that a fail? Fail. Yes. Yeah, it's okay. We're in the time loop. I've still got time. I can just go back and fix it. I'm like Marty McFly of board games.
Yeah.
Anyway, my new oath is to kind of keep exploring some of these Japanese games that I have bought. And MJ said yesterday that she actually had fun hanging out with me, which was weird. But we've sort of said that we would play either the Leiden 1593, or I also bought Shinjuku while I was in Shinjuku, which is kind of cool. And it's a train pick up and deliver game where you're kind of getting different customers and you're transporting them all around Shinjuku. But it seems like you have shared networks and you unfortunately have to let other players take some of your customers as you use the networks to get things done. So I thought it looked quite interesting. I'd never heard of it before in my life. And yeah, the box art and stuff appealed for me. And I was a sucker for buying Shinjuku while I was in Shinjuku. So it was sort of the thing. Either of these could be the oath, but apparently, like I said, MJ said she had a great time yesterday she said, I'm not going to say it, but I'm thinking it. And I was like, you were going to say we're going to play both of these games, weren't you? And she's like, no, I don't want to commit to anything. But that's kind of what she was alluding to, that we'd play both of these games today. So we will let fate decide and see how much tolerance MJ has for my shenanigans today.
Yeah.
So
you're on a roll.
Exactly. So yeah, we shall. I'll report back, and I'm going to play both these games because I just purchased them. But I would like to see which one, what they're about, because I don't know anything about either of them. So yeah,
very cool.
Well, thanks very much for joining us today, everyone, and thanks to Dana and Jules for being co-hosts. That was awesome. It's lovely to catch up.
It was great.
It always is.
It's always fun.
It is. And with that, we shall see you in the future. Or is it the past? Thank you very much. Play more games. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
What was that?
Oh, sorry. It was just a yawn. Sorry.
That wasn't a yawn.
Just a stretch. It was a stretch.
No human makes that sound. That's how you yawn. Don't know what you did before. I can't even go that high pitched. That's as high as I can go. All right, here we go. Let's roll. Okay.
You can't look at Dana.
I can't look at anybody. I'm looking out the window. Okay. All right.